Hi there, my name is Sean Brilliant. I'm a marine biologist and I work for the Canadian Wildlife Federation. I manage the National Marine Conservation Program. There's a sailing race taking place right now going across the Atlantic Ocean. The Canadian Wildlife Federation Rivers to Oceans ambassador, Damien Foxall, is participating in this race because he's a professional sailor. This race got me thinking about oceans and who own them and how we look after them, and I thought I'd share some of these thoughts with you. This race is called Transat Jacques Vabre, and it goes from northern France to southern Brazil, a distance of over 10,000 kilometers, crossing through many different parts of the ocean, including the open ocean as it moves between these areas. The open ocean is one of the largest habitats on this planet. It kind of looks like this, is what you see when you're on it. But as you know, there's much more to this than meets the eye. This is a part of the world where many of the large whales live, some of the largest animals that have ever existed on this planet. A great diversity of fish, including sharks and sailfish, live within this area. Marine reptiles live within this area, including leatherback turtles. And there is a baffling array of mysterious creatures, large and small, that live throughout this system, many of which we don't know a whole lot about. It is a fascinating ecosystem and one that covers most of our planet. It got me thinking, as this race is taking place between these two countries and it crosses between different parts of the Atlantic Ocean, I started wondering who actually owns the oceans. Do we actually understand who's in control and looking after these things? Well, it sort of works this way. This is Canada, where I'm based. I'm based out of Halifax, Nova Scotia on the east coast. This is the landmass of Canada. This is the part of the ocean that Canada is responsible for. It's called the exclusive economic zone. It's the part of the ocean that Canada can use and is responsible for looking after. It's almost as large as the landmass itself in this case. If we were to look at a map of the world and look at all of the exclusive economic zones, it would look like this. The land is shown in sort of green here, and the white is the ocean. And if you can make it out, surrounding all of the land are the exclusive economic zones of the different countries. These, in blue, I guess. These areas show the parts of the ocean that are looked after and used by different parts of the countries. But one of the things I think you'll notice is that there is a lot of white space. This white space is what's called the high seas. No one actually owns or looks after these areas, although there are groups of multinational organizations that look after them. More than half the ocean exists as a high sea area that has no one directly responsible for them. This is really something that's kind of important, because if we want to look after our oceans, somebody needs to take responsibility for it. One of the ways that we can look after oceans that seems to be quite effective is by using something called marine protected areas. What is a marine protected area? Well, there are parts of the ocean that are obviously very important to us. These can be coral reefs, where there is a great array, a great number of different animals that live in one spot at the same time. It can also include areas that grow a lot of material very quickly, such as seagrass beds or kelp beds. Marine protected areas and important parts of the ocean can also include areas that don't have a lot of species, but can be important for other reasons, because they contain areas like breeding populations, or it's an important nursery habitat for marine species. So these areas tend to need to be protected. Not so much that we want to stay away from them or that we can't use them, but we need to make sure that we use them responsibly. And this is what we mean by protected. So what can you do in a marine protected area? MPA is another word for marine protected area, an abbreviation for marine protected area. Well, you can still fish in some MPAs as long as the fishing is not jeopardizing the wildlife that exists in that area. Some types of fishing can be quite destructive because they destroy habitat and how they do them, and these types of fishing activities could be excluded. Transportation is another activity that could take place within marine protected areas as long as it's not jeopardizing the wildlife or the ecosystems in that area. Oil and gas exploration, however, tends to be something that is quite damaging and destructing and is excluded from most marine protected areas. Recreational use of these areas, like whale watching or swimming or fishing, in some cases are fine as well. The main point and the goal of marine protected areas is to conserve the ecosystem and the wildlife and its habitat essentially forever. So activities that accomplish this are not necessarily ruled out from being used in marine protected areas. In some cases they are. Some of our habitats in the ocean are just so sensitive that we can't have any fishing in that area, or we can't have any sort of human activity, and these are often referred to as marine reserves. But in general, marine protected areas mostly means paying attention to how we use the area and making sure that how we're using it is not risking those resources and that wildlife for future generations to use as well. This is the main purpose of what MPAs are all about. So where are the MPAs in this world? Where are the marine protected areas in this world? Well, here's a quick and somewhat embarrassing map of it. In this map, the blue is showing the land and the white is showing the ocean again. And these little dark speckles that you see all over the map are where there are marine protected areas in the world. Not very many of them, I'm afraid. This map is a couple of years old now. There have been a couple of other larger marine protected areas that have actually been formed in the high seas areas between different countries. So multiple countries have got together and agreed to form a marine protected area, for example, in the North Atlantic and in a few other areas. And these are very important and very encouraging steps to see that these countries are getting together to cooperate with these things. But the situation still has some difficulties, as you can see from this map. In fact, less than 1% of our ocean is protected in the sense that we pay attention to what's being done there, and we make sure that the activities and uses of the ocean are not jeopardizing those habitats. Some countries do better than others. Some countries are putting aside and protecting and managing activities in large parts of their ocean, but most countries are not, including my own. Canada is behind on its own commitments to establishing marine protected areas, and this is something that can be, that is quite disappointing and a bit irresponsible in how we're actually using our ocean resources. It's something we need to take better responsibility for. The ocean is the largest habitat we have on this planet. Look at this globe. All of this blue is ocean. It takes up most of our planet. It is responsible for many of the reasons why we exist on this planet. It affects our weather, it provides us with water, it provides us with food. It is the reason we exist here. We use the ocean for a variety of things, but we need to make sure we are responsible how we use the ocean so that we are not damaging it and therefore damaging either ourselves or future generations and on this planet. We need to use the ocean responsibly. Marine protected areas are one way of doing this to make sure that any sort of use of the ocean that is taking place in a given area is being done thoughtfully and in a way that isn't jeopardizing the resources in that area. You can help with this situation as well by learning about how we use the ocean, how the ocean works, and maybe how we shouldn't be using the ocean or better ways to do it. Then you can help by talking about this. Tell your friends about the ocean, tell your parents what you know about it, let people know what should be done to better manage our oceans. If we don't look after the oceans, we could be causing a lot more problems for ourselves down the road, and it's something that we want to make sure is there for future generations to take advantage of as well. So these are some of my thoughts about what the oceans are, what the open ocean is, and what are some of the tools we can use, like marine protected areas, to manage our oceans and make sure things continue to operate the way they are now. Thanks very much for your time.